There are 3 stages to this, and we've given it a lot of thought. The first step is to help try and prevent or reduce instances of new avoidable homelessness. And I'll give an example of what I mean. When a landlord wants to sell their property or move back into it, and they have to ask the tenants to leave, and those tenants are working and not in arrears, they've been perfect, they're no-fault tenants, they are put through what's called a no-fault eviction, whether they found a new home or not. And a lot of tenants in that scenario cannot find a new home through no fault of theirs. They just cannot find one. There isn't one they can afford, or they're not being given one. They apply and they're turned down, whatever it might be. They just can't get the new home. Eviction date comes along. And if you find yourself without a home, even if you're able to sleep on a sofa here or sit, you try and hold a job down when you don't have a home. And what happens more than anyone realizes, you've got all the figures, you can look them up, right? About 1 in 3 cases of new homelessness is someone that was in work and was paid up, and through no fault of their own, has found themselves homeless. You lose your home, then you lose your job, then you can't get a home, and it's a horrible spiral. There are other reasons that people end up homeless as well, complex social reasons, and we're not pretending there's anything to do there, right?
Yeah.
But for people in that scenario, what BestAgent's going to do, it's already doing, is offering a rental guarantee. Because there are some scenarios where tenant applies for a property that they found that's on the market with the landlord. The landlord says, I'll accept that tenant, but only if they've got a guarantor. And they don't have a guarantor. And so the only thing standing in the way of that person getting that home and avoiding becoming homeless is a guarantor. And what BestAgent's offering is, we'll offer the tenant a rent guarantee for a limited period of time, but hopefully enough to make the landlord go, okay. And we've already got we've had a lawyer draw that contract up, in return for the tenant sharing their story with us, so that we can use that for publicity. So it's a marketing. So rather than spending money on marketing, we don't even have to spend the money unless they default. We risk some money on guaranteeing a tenancy, and get someone into a home that otherwise wouldn't have got in, and get some publicity out of it. So that's part one, which we're already offering. However, we have not yet had a single take up.
Okay.
Dorset Council is working really hard to be able to take us up on this offer for people that they've got that are coming out of care.
I did see your video about a counsellor on board.
But my God, there's some red tape and some hoops to jump through. And I get why, actually. But we are struggling to find people that want to take this up. There have been a couple who've said, can I have a guarantor, please? And they think that we're paying their rent for them.
Right, I see.
We've had a couple who want the guarantee but don't want to go on video. Like, so that's the deal. You can be anonymous. We can pixelate out your face and not give your name away.
Yeah.
But we need, that's the quicker, we're not doing it for nothing. You can't, so we're a business. We're not being a charity. We're not paying anyone's rent. We don't need any donations for this. This is us doing something for marketing purposes that is also hopefully achieving something useful for society. So that's the first part. The second part is, once we've demonstrated that this concept works, we want to invite other property companies to do the same. We don't want to keep this to ourselves. We'd like to say, look, we've proved it, it's working, right? Okay, for every 10 tenancies that we guarantee, 1 fails. Cost us X. Totally worth it. Totally worth it. So it's a tax write-off marketing expense. And you other big corporates making your tens or hundreds of millions a year profit could make yourselves look really good by joining this scheme, providing rent guarantees to people that need them to help prevent strict qualification criteria, they've got to be, the council must have approved them as at risk of homelessness,
Okay.
or they are already homeless and looking to get out of temporary accommodation into a home.
Do they have to be employed?
No.
No.
If they're on universal credit
Okay.
and that's enough for them to pay their rent, and they're choosing a property that's within their budget, no.
Okay.
We are paying their rent. As long as they're paying their rent, whether they pay their rent with universal credit or employment is none of our business,
Okay.
right? So yeah, that's part number 2 is to invite the rest of the property industry to say, guys, join in. Here's a template for it. We're not trying to make money. All we're looking for is publicity out of this, but we want to help everyone. And if we're the guys that initiated this and get the credit for doing that, we're happy, because everyone that you guys help will have happened as a result of us doing this. And what we just, we don't want to keep this to ourselves. That's pointless. Let's stop anyone else helping people get off the streets. So yeah, that's part 2. But we can't do that until we've got some success cases.
Yeah.
And part 3, a little bit longer term, when BestAgent's got more resources, is we want to offer something a little bit like an Airbnb for people who are temporarily rough sleeping. Okay. So, and we want to use unoccupied properties for short periods of a few days or a few weeks. And we want to do it in collaboration with councils, where the council says to landlords of these properties.
So it'd be council properties or private?
There aren't any council properties anymore. It's all housing association
Housing
or
association.
private landlords. So it's to be only private landlords, right? So any private landlord that signs up to this scheme, where they say, we are happy to make our empty property available for this scheme. Just by doing that, it automatically has their council tax on their empty property waived.
Right, okay.
So council loses that income, but has now got accommodation. Now, that accommodation can still be paid for, because the councils are required to pay for temporary accommodation for certain people, right? The problem is they have a shortage of it. So what BestAgent will be doing is using our relationship with estate agents to find the landlords and invite them to just click a button and go, yeah, I'll be on that scheme. Because the scheme says, A, you'll get some income from it. B, you are insured, and this is where BestAgent would put the insurance up, right?
Okay.
Against any loss arising out of this occupation. So you haven't got to worry about anything. Okay, so there's some risk. There will be some costs occasionally, but again, I will treat that as an operating cost of our business, because my view has always been, if you are a large successful corporation, then you should take care of everyone in your sphere, like supermarkets provide food to food banks. It doesn't cost them anything. If you've got the resources and are able to help. And what BestAgent's got is the technology platform to make it get a couple of clicks and this is taken care of. And of course there are risks. This could go wrong lots of ways, but you figure it out and you refine it and you tweak and you change it and you get there. But if there are people sleeping on the streets in the same place where there are empty properties, and a landlord would be very happy to have his council tax waived. And the specific rough sleepers I'm talking about are the ones who find themselves between properties for a few weeks.
Okay.
So there are plenty of those. I mean, I volunteered for Crisis for Christmas once and did the night shift and met loads of these rough sleepers. And they're all different backgrounds and different stories. And some of them are there with mobile phones and, they're switched on, educated, they're even employed. They have a job. They just have nowhere to sleep. It's as simple as that. They're not homeless people in the way that we think of homeless people. They are, but they're not suffering from substance abuse problems or social problems. They are in work. They have nowhere to sleep. And again, none of this solves the problem completely, but you start to add all these things together, right? If we're able to reduce the instances of new homelessness with the rental guarantee scheme, not all done by us, but done by everybody, that would be a 1/3 reduction in new homelessness. Now imagine how that would alleviate the pressure on the charities dealing with the constant supply, the dripping tap of newly homeless people. It would just alleviate some of the pressure and allow them to do even better for the people that they need, the people who really need the support, the ones with the more complex needs. So suddenly those guys have got more capacity to help.